I'm going to tell you a story today that I honestly never thought that I would share publicly. It involves my brother, a genuine genius who went from a tech millionaire to sleeping on our mother's living room floor. And when our mom passed away, supposedly without a will, at least one that we couldn't find, well, what happened in the next 4 years? Well, probate court and an eviction to resolve. And I'm sharing this story because if it just convinces one person to get their will in order, it's worth telling. So let's get into it. First, let me introduce you to my brother. My sister made a nickname for him, Tonsil Stone. You know, that annoying little thing that just shows up uninvited and it kind of stinks. Yeah, well, that. So we refer to him as TS. Now, before you think I'm being mean, hear me out. This man is genuinely brilliant, and he always has been. Even as a child, he showed signs of genius. He was headhunted from the Northeast to Seattle right at the beginning of the tech boom. He spent decades in that world, and he had a gift for convincing investors to back him and his ideas. And eventually, he built and sold a tech company that made him a millionaire, like real money. So what do you do when you're a tech millionaire? Well, apparently, if you're TS, you move to Ukraine, start a philosophy book, hire a bunch of very inexpensive coders and developers to build a software that's going to be, and I quote, bigger than Facebook and YouTube put together. Yeah. So, and he married a Ukrainian woman, and he lived a very extravagant lifestyle without ever once checking his bank balance. That last part, that's where it starts to unravel. As the money ran out, TS did what he'd always done. He went looking for investors, except this time he turned to people who were the wrong ones. We're talking about people who were connected to the Ukrainian mob. People who expect a return on their investment. And when that return didn't come, they stopped asking nicely. So he had to leave Ukraine and fast. He was so broke, he had to call his daughter in the States to buy him a plane ticket home. So there he arrived at my sister's door, hat in hand, with almost nothing. My sister and her husband, being generous and loving people, took him in. They gave him a room and they fed him, and they asked nothing in return except that he eventually get back on his feet. What they didn't anticipate was that eventually would stretch into years, and that getting back onto his feet was not on TS' agenda. TS days at my sister's looked a little bit like this. He would sleep late, post on X, and something he's been doing since 2009, and to date he has racked up almost 100,000 posts. That's 16 posts a day. And he would write his philosophy book and sit at a local restaurant on his laptop, doing whatever research he says he's doing. What he did not do was help around the house, contribute to any groceries, or show any sort of progress of moving forward. And after about a year, my sister and her husband, they gently suggested that it was time for him to find his own footing. And the very next day, unannounced, TS packed up and moved in with our mother. So mom lived about a mile away from my sister in a little 840 square foot condo in a 55 and older community, one bedroom. That kind of small, lovingly arranged space that you create for yourself after you've lived a lifetime and downsized. And now she had a full-grown adult son pulling a twin mattress out of a closet every night to sleep on her living room floor. So their arrangement was simple. He'd drive her to appointments and do laundry and take out the trash and cook one meal a day. And she'd give him a roof and, like sands in the hourglass, time passes. And 4 years goes by. And Mom and TS are still living together, not without the struggles of living in a very small space. You know, a mother who doesn't appreciate being ignored in her own home. And TS is so self-absorbed that he really doesn't see what's going on around him. He has sat so long in a living room chair day after day with his legs crisscrossed with his laptop sitting on his lap. He's actually worn a hole in the cushion with his toe wiggling because he's so lost in thought his toe moves without knowledge. I'm sorry, I just think that's funny. So our mom, she fought with COPD and emphysema for over 15 years, and she'd been in and out of the hospital more times than I can count. And my sister did all of the running around for her during these times because TS, as he would tell you, doesn't like hospitals. Now, I was living 600 miles away through all of this, and I learned these things were occurring over the phone and through Facebook chats. And then one day I got the call from my sister that I kind of worried about every day and night for years. And I jumped on a plane and I made it to her bedside just in time. And I'm so grateful for that. March 23rd, about a week before her 84th birthday, our mother passed away peacefully. So Mom is a real planner, and so she planned her own funeral, which was a true gift. And our family has ties to the funeral business, and that made things much more manageable, especially emotionally. But what came next? No one prepared us for. After the funeral, we had a lovely dinner at a local restaurant, and we went back to Mom's place to sit and reminisce and just be together in her space and to feel her presence and maybe to start to heal our hearts a little. That lasted about 5 minutes. TS decided that this was the moment, time, and place to start making demands about the condo and whatever money Mom had left behind. The grief in the room shifted to something else entirely. Now, as an adult, I've understood TS. You know, he's a bit eccentric and he's very self-absorbed. And I really do understand the fear that he may have been internalizing about his own future. But this wasn't something that I was prepared to feel about my own brother on the day of our mother's funeral. So my mother had named my sister as executor because I lived so far away and TS had been living abroad. It made complete sense. But here's where everything got complicated. We couldn't find Mom's will. The attorney that drew it up ages ago is now 90, and he can't find a copy of it. And we couldn't find it anywhere in her personal belongings. And without that document, we were headed straight into probate court, which is exactly as slow, expensive, and exhausting as it sounds. Now, in probate, TS demanded lifetime use of the condo, which he claimed Mom had promised him, and he demanded the cash that was in the checking and savings that he claimed Mom had promised him verbally. And he sent a list of demands via email the day after her funeral. The list of demands included, get this, a budget of $1,000 for a new wardrobe. For heaven's sake, he wants new clothes? So what he didn't account for was the estate had debts. And when there isn't enough cash to cover those debts, you have to sell what assets you have. And really the only assets my mother had left at that time was the condo and a car. For a man that's so intelligent, well, anyway. Now the probate court ordered him to pay the fees and utilities on the condo for as long as he stayed there, which I'll note he somehow managed to do despite claiming to be completely broke. Now, someone did mention the Cayman Islands, and I'm just going to leave that there. So during the next 4 years, TS has turned 65 and qualifies for Medicare and has started getting Social Security. 4 years. 4 years of back and forth with the court, with legal fees eating at little what was left of Mom's estate, and TS living in the home and basically as a court-ordered squatter, until finally the decision came down to evict him and sell the property. Now, eviction was really no other option because there was no way we were going to sell the condo with him living there, sitting in the chair with the threadbare spot from his toe rubs. That's just not possible. And I'm still shocked at the thought that someone can sit in a chair for 4 years and wear a hole in it. Anyway, so the eviction was hanging over his head, and TS stayed until the very last possible minute. And he packed up Mom's car, which we agreed would come out of his portion of the proceeds from the sale of the condo, and he drove across the country back to the Northwest. Now, here's the part that I really have to be honest. It gave me a complicated kind of peace. In the end, he didn't receive a single dollar from the estate sale because he owed years of back child support. Yes, a millionaire didn't pay child support while he was living lavishly in Europe. Well, the state had its hand out as soon as those checks were cut. Now our nephew has a nice little nest egg for him as he enters adulthood. Karma, as it turns out, is a real thing. Now, here's why I told you all of that. It's not to air the family drama, though I understand it may have felt that way, but because this story has a very simple, preventable moment at the center of it. A document that states clearly, this is what I want, this is who gets what, and who is in charge. And that's your will. My mom had one drawn up. We just couldn't find it. And that gap, that simple single missing piece of paper cost us 4 years, all kinds of legal fees, and family stress that was just ridiculous. So if you own anything, if it's a car, a bank account, a little condo, some lakeside property, a handmade collected set of silver, anything, please get a will made for yourself. Please tell someone where it is, and please make it easy for the people who you love to honor your wishes. And while you're at it, look into making sure you have an advanced directive, but that's a whole nother video. So I want to hear from you. Have you dealt with a situation like this? Or are you someone who keeps putting off a will because, it feels like something you'll handle later? Tell me in the comments. There's no judgment. I think most of us have been there. And if this resonated with you, please subscribe and come back. We talk about real stuff here, and it's messy and complicated, expensive stuff, that nobody really wants to warn you about until it's too late. So thank you so much for chiming in, and I'll see you in the next video.